Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. This is a very busy season for everybody. I appreciate you spending the time with us. As Tracy said, my name is Damon Edwards. Today we're going to be talking about modernizing incident response. I think a lot of folks may have come to this via Rundeck. I think one of the most popular use cases for Rundeck is automating service requests, right? So creating self-service, letting people, instead of filling out tickets, letting people do things for themselves, helping to free up time across the organization. But today we're going to talk about, I think, our second most popular and probably fastest growing use case for Rundeck, which is modernizing incident response, right? How to get shorter incidents and fewer escalations by kind of rethinking how we do our incident response. On the left there, that's me, Damon Edwards, talking with my hands, which is not an uncommon thing. And on the right, Darren, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, appreciate it, Damon. So Darren Huggins, I'm the Solution Consultant Manager in the Central Region US. And that's a great picture you got when I was down in Australia. So appreciate you finding that one. Yeah, looking forward to going through this and covering the use cases.
Yeah, and a fun little side about Darren, even before earliest days of when Rundeck and PagerDuty were starting to partner, before we were even talking about being acquired by PagerDuty, Darren was out there making solutions for customers and demos and all kinds of great things. So I thought, who better to help show us through the eyes of somebody who's relatively new to the Rundeck game, showing how they've gotten Rundeck the most out of Rundeck and PagerDuty. So I'll be running through some slides and then kind of set the context for everybody. And then this sort of second half here, Darren will be firing off some live demos and we'll be having some open discussion around how all this stuff works together. So quick place to start, I think, is, what is PagerDuty, right? Especially for folks who are coming from the Rundeck side. Even before I got involved with PagerDuty, I quickly was surprised to learn, wow, look at all these great things that PagerDuty's platform can do. It's more than just the on-call tool, right? And so, PagerDuty is it's really a platform for real-time operation. So as we move into this, highly complex, highly consequential world of online digital services, PagerDuty is that platform that helps our real-time operations run. And so kind of the real quick basics here of PagerDuty, as I said, it's platform for managing the real-time operations. And I think the first thing to know about is it's really a proactive hub, right? It's a place where you can keep the information on, my service directories, who are the teams responsible for those services, what are the different statuses of those services and my dependencies, and what are the different response plays I want to run if something goes wrong with them. So it's a place to get organized, which really, is going to be a big step forward in a lot of folks for their incident response capabilities. And second, it's a place that, harnesses all of your digital data. So you take all the different signals out in your infrastructure from all the variety of sources, really data from anywhere, and helps you kind of harness all that and put that into one place. And the reason you want to do that is to make sense of that data, right? So this is where the AI ops or event intelligence capabilities come in for PagerDuty to help you reduce that noise. In today's world, things are increasingly noisy just due to the sheer complexity of the architectures and the scale of systems that we're building. So it helps you make sense of it, helps you, quiet the noise so you can see more of the signal, helps you learn from past problems. People always say that no two incidents are truly alike, but they sure do rhyme, right? So it's great to be able to learn from those past issues. And I think really some of the most exciting advancements in the PagerDuty platform are really coming in this area, helping you make sense of the data and the world around you. And then, responding and engaging teams. And this is where people generally think of PagerDuty of, how do we alert the right person with the right information at the right time that there's something going on? How do we make it easy for them to communicate and call in and know how to route problems to the right experts, and really build out that network as the incident evolves, and also keeping the business owners informed, right? I mean, how often are you on an incident and next thing you know, the VP suddenly found their way onto the conference bridge, right? And starts asking questions and scaring everybody and distracting everybody, unintentionally, of course, but you know how it is to be on the other end of that, but through PagerDuty's capabilities of keeping those business owners or the stakeholders informed the whole way, so we can resolve these incidents, quicker. But also, very importantly, something that gets overlooked is being able to analyze and learn from these problems, right? So being able to not only from a post-mortem kind of a human review perspective, but also PagerDuty's machine learning and analytics capabilities to learn from these problems, to improve how we spot these problems, to improve how we're going to go and solve these problems in the future. So really, it's a pretty comprehensive platform for all of these things. And then there's the new addition to the family, and that's where I come from. I'm one of the co-founders of Rundeck. So now I'm on the product team. There at PagerDuty, and the new family member, the new product in the product suite is Rundeck. So if you think about PagerDuty as the way to spot the problems, to get the right information to the right people, so we can mobilize them to take advantage, to react to those problems, Rundeck is the ability to actually take action on those problems. So Rundeck fundamentally is runbook automation, right? And I mentioned there's a lot of uses for runbook automation, but incident response is probably one of the most popular now. And if you want to define runbook automation, it's the ability to give anyone in your organization self-service access to the operations tasks that previously only your subject matter experts could perform. Say Tracy, who introduced the call, she's one of our crack DBAs, and Darren's on the network team, right? And I'm an SRE, or I'm on a systems administration team. How do I do the things that they know how to do, right? And a lot of time I'm going to spend, either it's in sort of peacetime, service requests. Hey, Darren, can you do this for me? Or, hey, Tracy, can you check this out for me? Or whatever that request might be. I'm opening a ticket, I'm waiting, I'm interrupting Tracy and Darren. It gets to be very expensive and time consuming. It adds a lot of weighting to the organization. Well, in the incident world, that's even more important because this clock is ticking. The incident's getting longer. I don't have the capabilities to do the things that they do. But with runbook automation, they're able to create those procedures, put it into my hands so I can safely execute in an automated fashion the things that they would normally come in to do, either to diagnose or to resolve an incident. So we can think about kind of how this looks in reality. You've got Rundeck, your subject matter experts. My example there would be Darren and Tracy. They define the automated workflows across their existing tools and scripts and APIs and manual commands, the stuff they do today, right? They already know how to move the bits. They know how to check for this or check for that. They know how to maybe set a configuration. But it's what their expert knowledge comes in is, how do you invoke all that? How do you give it the right options? How do you target it at the right place? How do you know what sequence to do things in? How do you know what output from one tool means I should do in the next tool? Rundeck is a place where they can easily take all that and quickly define those workflows that expertly span all those tools, so they can create the diagnostic or the remediation procedures that I can use to go and solve problems. And it's really, working anywhere, right? So across your cloud infrastructure, physical, data centers, VMs, containers, serverless, you name it. It's really the human to tool interaction that we care about. What it's calling, it can call anything, and where it's going can go anywhere. And then I can use Rundeck access control and other guardrails style features to give access to anybody in the organization who I want to be able to execute these sorts of procedures. So I can keep a lot of repetitive tasks away from me. I can not be the bottleneck for other people who can move quicker. And there's all kinds of interesting impact that can have on our organization and its effectiveness. So kind of a short way to think of it is, we're enabling anyone to do anything anywhere it's needed, and to the goal of, how do I move control closer to the problem so we can be quicker as an organization, we can learn faster as an organization, and we can stop with these bottlenecks and disruptive interruptions that get us down. So, putting Rundeck in the incident response, play, how it fit in there. And I think this is why, it was so great to join forces, become part of the PagerDuty family, because it really fit perfectly together, right? We're in this scenario, we're really trying to solve this same problem. And if you think about it, before, you could do the best job of processing alerts, spotting problems, mobilizing the right person, and we can shorten that timeline down. But what happens when that person has to go and take action? How do they know, okay, well, I need to do this first, then do that? What was that thing that the firewall team told me never to do? Or what was the thing that this other team, where should I go and find the right way to do this? Who do I escalate to? So what often will happen is the person's maybe looking through some wikis, trying to say, hey, is this thing correct? Or is this the right procedure? Or maybe they're asking somebody something on Slack, not quite sure what the other person's saying back. Or perhaps they have some access to some shared scripts or tools. And they're like, well, are these things up to date, right? Is this the right, how do I invoke these things? How do I know what's coming back? So because of that confusion, what often ends up happening is more escalations, right? Well, I'll call other people and who can help me with this. The incident grows, the disruption that it's causing inside the organization grows, and the clock is ticking. It takes longer to solve those problems. But with the addition of Rundeck, we're really kind of solving that last mile problem, which is, I'm able to take those procedures, the things that when I call Darren in or I call Tracy in, the things that they would do to first diagnose the problem, right? I could put those into the hands as Rundeck jobs, these automated workflows, into the hands of any of these first responders, so they can start to do the expert actions that normally I'd have to escalate to somebody else to do. And if you notice here, I've got another arrow drawn in here, which I think is really one of the most exciting parts of our joint product family here, is the ability to have PagerDuty in that event intelligence. It's sensing that there's something wrong, automatically call Rundeck to either do auto diagnostics. So therefore, even before anybody logs in, I've already run this full battery of diagnostics that normally my experts have to log in to do. Or I can actually go ahead and take some action, right? Maybe there's a certain amount of known problems, or maybe a certain amount of resolution types. I know, hey, if I do this, if I clear this cache, or if I restart this service, or I do this, which I hit some feature flag that's going to degrade some things and save the rest of the service. Well, if I can have PagerDuty do that automatically, I can stop these incidents before they even get rolling, before they even start impacting customers, which is great for the incident resolution timeline, but it's really great for Darren and Tracy and everybody else who would get paged in the morning or in the middle of the afternoon when they're working on something important. We can put that Band-Aid on it and then come back and check later. And sometimes, let's face it, we just have these issues where just don't have the budget or the time to fix some of these known problems or potential known problems in our infrastructure. To be able to set up these automated intelligent responses, we can protect ourselves from those while we focus on the other things to move the business forward. But it's our choice to do that. The universe isn't dictating it for us as it normally would with types of incidents. But even better, right? We had Alice there, my previous example, and she was being able to do these expert procedures. But hey, it's even better for Alice if she can hand these off to other people. Now, instead of having to be that one person that gets woken up because I know this service so well, I can start to hand off these capabilities to other people so I can focus on my other work. Again, the people who are doing the operations work are responsible for these services. They're maintaining control over this, but they can allow other people to safely participate while they focus on the things that they need to do to move the business forward. Where this often comes into play is this kind of finger pointing dynamic that we see a lot of times in organizations, where it's like, where problems come in, and they could be other technical experts who are receiving these alerts, and they keep having to bother the same people, or in that case, not so much bother, but seek help. But from the person being interrupted, it gets to be frustrating. It gets to be, why can't this happen on their own? Did I do this 2 weeks ago when we're in the dev environment, and then I had to help folks in the staging world with this, and now it's happening again in production? Why am I keep getting interrupted with these things? And of course, people want to be good teammates. They want to help out, but there's that sinking feeling of like, gosh, this is wasting my time, or is this eating up all of my time? It's frustrating. Often leads to burnout. And there's a feeling of helplessness of the people that need to constantly do those escalations. They know they're pushing interruptions on other people, but they really have no other way around it. Instead, we're talking about the idea of, hey, how do we push that control? How do we push those expert actions? Now, they can't push everything, but we can do a large swath of, the expert diagnostics and standard kind of remediation procedures, push those to people closest to the problems, let them try to solve the problems first, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning and they want to get more sleep, or it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they want to, crank out that last bit of work, project work, so they can go home on time. We're stopping a lot of those disruptive escalations that really don't have to happen. So, little thought here, what does this all kind of mean from a, kind of value perspective? If you think about the normal incident, timeline, right? The amount of time it takes to manually mobilize people, get the war room together, get the conference bridge out, make sure we have the right people, realize we don't have the right people, call some other, then call the right people. Diagnostics, right? The round and round we go trying to fetch logs or trying to figure out, well, what was the problem in the first place? And then whatever the resolution procedures are, sort of the very manual, ticket-driven way of working. And I think, as an industry, we've done a lot to improve those incident command procedures, right? So I think we've learned a lot from other domains, and you can see organizations getting better at this process. But really, the addition of PagerDuty really, turbocharges that, right? Aids with the detection, even in some cases the prevention, trying to spot problems before they become full-blown incidents. Dramatically improves the mobilization, making sure we have the right people at the right time with the right information, which speeds up our diagnostics, speeds up our resolution, and so on. But then with the addition of Rundeck and PagerDuty together, I think we're fundamentally rewriting the incident timeline, right? So First of all, there's the auto diagnostic and auto response interactions that we can use. They'll automatically look for these problems, automatically try to diagnose, see if it really is a problem, automatically try different resolutions. It's not going to catch everything, but that can dramatically reduce the amount of incident alerts that are coming our way. So likewise with the mobilization, if we can empower those first responders with those same expert actions, not only is there a whole lot of incidents that we could resolve from that first interaction, but we can also say, hey, instead of having to do the mass mobilization where it's like this service is having a problem, let's call everybody, or let's kind of have this blooming escalation where we keep involving bigger and bigger waves until we figure out what's going on. If we can take all those expert diagnostic actions, create them as Rundeck jobs, have them either automatically run by PagerDuty when an incident is detected, or have them automatically called by that first person that's responding. It's there's a whole lot of problems that we can find and do a pinpoint resolution. So instead of having to say, hey, there's a problem with this app, let's call the on-call for the app. Wait a minute, looks like there's a data problem here. Let's call the database team. Then it's like, wait a minute, it's not actually a data problem, it's actually a network problem, right? And we're kind of having this escalation chain taking this time. If we can call all those expert diagnostics up front, we can basically find a lot of those problems earlier and then do a pinpoint escalation to a particular team to really shorten that diagnosis time, and also dramatically shorten the resolution time if we're able to put those expert actions, those standard operating procedures into the responders' hands as early as possible, run it, get ourselves back going. And also a lot of this will help with the collection of the information that we would need for post-mortem activities and figuring out what do we have to improve in the future. So, this is where we're really going together, PagerDuty plus Rundeck. It's 1 + 1 = 3 type of a story, but we're fundamentally trying to help people rewrite their incident timelines and the impact that those incidents have on not just the customer, but on their internal organization, all that disruption that slows us down and causes a lot of pain personally if you've ever worked in operations, but also helps with our project deliveries and all the other things that this operational work and these escalations can continuously get in the way for. So you put the two together, what are the main kind of pillars here? Auto remediation, the auto diagnostics, right? So being able to automatically attempt those things before a responder even engages. It's like creating little robot helpers that can try to help you out. And then there's also, I guess, more the Iron Man suit, right? Which is, hey, let's give these automated diagnostic and remediation tasks to our responders so they can, work confidently and swiftly with that same expert capabilities that normally would have to escalate to get. And then all of this together creates this common audit trail, right? Of the automated tasks, the manual tasks, the incident timeline becomes a lot richer, which makes it a lot more effective for us to do the human postmortem analysis and also the machine learning analysis to look for ways that we can improve in the future. Or, as I said, the incidents may not always be the same, but to spot that rhyming before they come our way. And I think I pretty much just said this, right? Prevent incidents, reduce the cost of that response, and then share the knowledge so we continuously improve. A couple quick little points here before Darren gets us the real meat. But the integration overview, kind of what happens here. Number one, we can automatically have PagerDuty trigger Rundeck jobs at the start of an incident. So you can scope that to a particular service that's defined in PagerDuty. Say for this service, if there's a problem, maybe run these diagnostics. Or Event Intelligence spots a problem, knows it's a problem you've seen before, attempt this remediation, give it a few seconds. If that doesn't work, or a minute or so. If that doesn't work, then start the incident, right? Pause the incident, try some remediation, restart the incident, fire off the escalations and send the alarms and go from there. Also, once people log in to PagerDuty, being able to, without leaving the incident timeline, use the PagerDuty custom actions to trigger Rundeck jobs. So I want to empower those responders, give me a common set of safe things they can do. I can configure that from PagerDuty to automatically call those in Rundeck. Likewise, I can configure Rundeck to say, this is the incident that I'm working on. And so if I'm running jobs via the Rundeck UI, have that job automatically write back to the correct incident timeline in PagerDuty to keep everybody informed of what I'm doing, not in the PagerDuty responder UI, but I'm doing it in the Rundeck UI where I have a lot more control and a lot more buttons that I can push, a lot more jobs I can access, right? And also, obviously, this is something that's actually been the oldest integration, is that if something goes wrong in a Rundeck job, we can let PagerDuty know and trigger a PagerDuty incidents when a problem in the self-service side of Rundeck happens. So that is the key sort of high points. There's a lot more to the integration, but that's the stuff that the base controls there. So yeah, Darren, are you ready to show some goodness?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. We're going to certainly take the approach of trying to reduce the escalations and resolve the instance faster. So let me start by sharing my screen. We're going to share my website. Okay, so as an owner of a website, this is responsible for my income. Okay, so unfortunately, as a new business, I don't have a huge amount of skill and people to back this up. So we've all been working 24/7. Starting to take its toll on my more experienced engineers, having to jump in and sweep things up. But from a customer perspective, we want to ensure that we make this experience pretty seamless. And I'm just going to simulate a couple of things that we see happening very regularly. Something breaks, we get an alert, we want to do something with that alert, get it to the right person, and then we want to restore the service. Okay, so using PagerDuty and Rundeck, you'll see how we dramatically reduce that whole life cycle as the timeline that Damon pointed out. We're going to kick this off. We're just going to use something real simple here. My user is going to try and log in. Well, guess what? They're going to get an error. So today it looks like they got a problem. They could call my support desk. Well, all users, they try and access it again, and the site's gone completely down. So now all I'm waiting for is an event to come in from the monitoring tool where I'm going to expect a couple of things to happen. First off, we're going to reach out to Rundeck, and that's going to enrich the incident with the information to enable me to do some very quick assessment. Using the runbook that comes in, we're also going to be able to, and I think I'm starting to get some alerts coming in, we're going to start to be able to empower that user to actually perform the restoration task. Let's just see what's starting to come in.
I was going to say, it's interesting you mentioned that, Darren, because this is where most people really start with the automation, is doing the auto diagnostic.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's huge value. You now have to excuse me, I'm being interrupted as usual, Damon. So we'll just quickly pick this one up.
Hosting. The failure is Synthetics against hosting 8080. Apollo on total. Press 4 to acknowledge. Press 6 to resolve. Press 8.
Okay, so I'm going to pick that up. It's woken me up in the middle of the night, and clearly I'm not a very skilled engineer. So let's go start to take a look at that incident that come in. This synthetic transaction that has just been captured by the monitoring tool has been sent in using PagerDuty's ingestion. And at this point, we currently have one triggered alert. So I know something's happening out here. It is labeled as a P1, and a few things have already happened. Rundeck has immediately given me the uptime of that node. Okay, so it's enriched it. It's provided me some very good information that I know the node is up and running. Okay, I've got some other information down here. I get the response time by location. I can actually see there's 2 alerts. Notice I was only called once. The event intelligence is going to group that together. And during the period that this is an issue, we continually group those together. So let's look at on the right a bit more. I do have a small checklist of things to do as the responder. So I need to go and check the status of the web server. Okay, so as a level 1, what I need to do is go and check the status of that server. So we're going to trigger this custom action. And what's going to happen is that's going to make a call to Rundeck. Rundeck is going to do all the things that I don't know how to do. And it's going to present that information back to me. It's actually going to appear in a couple of places. It will update the notes shortly. But we can see that we do have these Docker containers running on port 82, 83, 84. But the one we're looking for, 8080, is down. Okay, so we see the website is down. We can see it's on port 8080. Clearly, there's an issue there. Now, typically at this point, I would have reached out and escalated, okay, and I would have woke other people up, engaged the teams, and disturbed lots of people during the middle of the night. However, with the steps that I have here, I've checked the status, it's down. So what I need to do is deploy a new web server. So using the actions again, I'm able to very quickly deploy a web server. I don't know how to do this. We're going to let Rundeck do what my engineers have configured. And we're going to let them run that. And the updates will again come through. Let's just take a quick look. I've also notified a couple of my stakeholders just to make them aware we're having a bit of an issue right now, and we'll give you some updates shortly. Let's go look at this timeline. We can see that Rundeck has deployed the web server to that address. So let's go back to our website. We're going to hit refresh, and it should be back up and running. Okay, so there you see we quickly was able to resolve an issue with 0 escalations and execute commands that I have no skill to do. So very quickly, we're able to resolve that process. Now, finally, in the workflow here, what's going to happen is I'm not going to resolve it. I need to understand that if it's back up, the monitoring tool is actually going to resolve it as well for me, therefore ensuring that we're checking this from all places. So we just give it its 30 seconds or so, and we should see this turn to resolved. Anything you want to add there, Damon, whilst we wait for the magic to happen?
You know, I said a lot of people came to Rundeck from the service request side first, right? And that was kind of our big first use case, and then incident management second. It's interesting, they found sort of the same thing, which is having a standard way to do these things. It saved them from so many unforced errors, right? And it's like you said, like you probably could figure out how to do that web server redeploy because you're an expert in some areas, but you might do it a little bit different than your colleague would do it, and that's going to end up causing bigger problems than we even started with. So it's interesting that idea of having standard procedures helps just as much in this use case as in our service request use case.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's huge. Now this is back up and running. I'm just going to run my final confirmation before I go back to bed. Let's go check the status, and appreciate the input there. We're going to run that status check. We check our timeline. We can see it's run. We just refresh this. Of course, everything I'm doing, you can actually do from your cell phone. So you may have just got out of bed, quickly sat down, work on the cell phone. And I can now see that I do have that Docker container hosting that image for that customer is back up and running. Okay, so that really closes down how you can do this very quickly.
Yeah, it's great. And so we've got, I mean, that is the very, I guess that's sort of the common three-legged stool here, right? Is the monitoring tools, which is usually more than one, right? Nobody ever has just one. Pumping into PagerDuty. PagerDuty helps you sort out what the alerts is, quiet the noise, make the signal a lot clearer, but then really manage all of that human interaction and notifications around that. And then, plugging Rundeck in there lets you, dramatically cut things down by cut your time down by taking action. Is that you would describe as well?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good description. I mean, do we want to show the audience what happens if I do need to engage a team?
Yeah, that would be great, because that's always the next question, right? It's like, what if I can't? That sounds great.
Yeah.
So there's a certain set of problems that we can solve that way, but what about the rest? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go back my site, which clearly I need to go and talk to the developers about. But it's
tug and toasting, by the way.
Yeah, so we're gonna go and compare our pricing plans, and of course I hit this button and I've magically got another error. Now this time it's a little bit more serious. It's pricing. My phone is ringing. We're going to ignore that this time. We're just going to go straight to PagerDuty and see what's happening. Once this screen updates, you'll see we have a number of events coming in and a number of notifications coming on the phone. We're doing everything we need to do. We're grouping events together. We're engaging all of the teams that need to concentrate on the various different events that have occurred in the background, okay? But we're going to concentrate again on this P1. Currently got one triggered alert, but let's go look at it, and there's probably a few more come in. So we're currently up to 2. Want you to just quickly see here that we've actually assigned it to Rundeck. So Rundeck's going to attempt to restore the service. And I couldn't speak quick enough. It's already failed to restore it. At that point, it's engaged myself as a responder, and it's also engaged other teams. So it's immediately said, look, I couldn't resolve it. I couldn't resolve the issue. Therefore, I need to mobilize not only Darren, but also the extended teams, okay? You'll also see at this point, we're writing information to our system of record, both Jira and ServiceNow. I'm also presenting the whole team information of any recent changes that have occurred to this service, okay? So I'm getting visibility. Did we push something out and it's causing these problems? Okay, now the typical scenario here is I'm going to acknowledge it. As a team, we maybe get on a bridge call. So here's a bridge immediately available for us, Teams meeting in this case. Could have been a Zoom, could have been any conferencing bridge of your choice. Now, the next piece is we're probably going to work through where have we seen this before? Again, this is where PagerDuty looks historically at where have we seen it? And what, are there any patterns around this? Are there any instances that we can go and use to grab the post-mortem information? Clearly, this is one that I've triggered a number of times. I really do need to speak to those developers. But you can see that it's been triggered these amount of times, this number in the last 7 days, but it's really this piece. If I'm woken up in the middle of the night, how long is it going to take to mobilize the team and resolve it? Okay, we want to do that as fast as possible. To help us, we can look at the past incidents. How do we go around resolving those? Okay. Now, as a team, you'll see on the right-hand side, a number of things happened again. Rundeck was attempting to restart that service. We got the notification to say that it failed to restart the service. It provided me some additional diagnostic information during that process. Now, as the responder and subject matter experts determine how we're going to resolve it, we can again use the PagerDuty custom actions to perform tasks. In this case, we're actually going to add some storage to the device. So using that custom action, we're going to ask Rundeck to go away and do that. Once it's added the storage, it's going to determine if it was successful. And if so, it's going to resolve the incident. So whilst we wait patiently, it usually only takes a couple of seconds. We'll see that it's resolved. And just to show that it's resolved, it's actually pushed back the current file system information of that device. Okay, so again, that's a scenario on how you can really accelerate should something either fail in the automation process or not exist. Okay, so you've got many different ways to engage and mobilize the team under the various different circumstances. Hope that one helps you, Damon. That's just another viewpoint on it.
You click on the timeline, show the timeline tab, because this is one of these things that people, it seems so simple. Oh yeah, it's a timeline, everything can happen. But actually, I've heard from people how valuable this was when this came into their organization, because they always had the problem where it's like you're being escalated to, you're being called into something. It's like, hey, what's going on? X is broken. Okay, you try Y. We did. What happened? It didn't work. Well, what did it say? Don't remember. Right? And you're just like, oh yeah. So now we're starting back at the beginning, right? So this way, the more you do through Rundeck, the more we have these logs, right, of what actually transpired. And the more people are working through the timeline, we have this history and the communication through that. So when we do have to escalate to people, we do have to phone a friend. In doing that, they have a lot of context to which they can understand what's going on and jump right in. It's just a simple idea, but it's one of these things that has a pretty profound impact on teams when they realize all this information is there, and gives them a reason to work more in this collaborative style through the timeline.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, Darren, I really appreciate these demos. I said kind of one question for you. I know we have some other questions from the audience, but I was going to ask a question of you. You got into Rundeck a few months ago, when we were just partners, right? We weren't there was no talk of acquisition or anything like that at that point. So you didn't really have a compelling, business reason to get into Rundeck and start making, solutions with this. And what was that caught your eye, or what kind of future, did you have a future vision in mind that was fulfilled when you kind of saw, oh wow, I can put Rundeck and PagerDuty together, I can start to do cool stuff? What was your experience like?
So my experience was it was very simple to connect the applications together, and it made sense from my years of being in this kind of space that I suddenly had the ability to do two things. First one was provide the responders with in-context information. Okay, so all the diagnostics up front, go grab the information and provide that to the people as they open the PagerDuty instance. Okay, so we had context of the alert. We didn't actually get context of the system or application we're looking at. So that was the first piece. The second piece was, and this really is perhaps the most high impact, it was taking the piece that you called out on that timeline, the resolution time. Now, most organizations have got very good at reducing the mean time to acknowledge, maybe even the mean time to mobilize teams. You put PagerDuty in place, you can do that in, a sub-minute, mobilize a complete team. But the restoring was the piece. And restoring not only if I had my experts on the line, but being able to empower the level ones, level twos to execute commands and restore services that really consume more expensive resources. So I think they were the things that caught my eye when I first started on this journey. Yeah, there's a lot of other things there, but they're the primary ones. The dramatic reduction in mean time to resolve.
No, that's really what got us excited about it as well. When it really came out of our community, people were starting to use Rundeck less on or not as much on the service request side, but saying, hey, what's really exciting is being able to rewrite that incident timeline, but really by cutting these escalation chains and moving control closer to the people who are responding. Hey, Tracy, I think we have some Q&A questions.
Yeah, we had some come in. This one's from Catherine. She asks, where do ticket tools fit into this?
I can take that. I'm actually, Darren, I think you kind of showed it in your about the incident.
Yep.
I think PagerDuty and Rundeck are, I guess, what we call real-time operations. And the idea is that tickets are good for what they are, but often it's not. The speed is different when you're in an incident scenario. So we together use the ticket tools, the ITSM tools, as a system of record, right? For compliance reasons or, problem, ITIL style problem management reasons. Folks want, all of the information of these incidents synced up to their ticket tools. And, PagerDuty fully supports that. Even in this example here, we've got, which is a common scenario we see, right? Dev works out of Jira and Ops works out of ServiceNow. And PagerDuty can link to both of those. There's also long-standing integration in Rundeck to manipulate or write or create, close, or do whatever you need to do to tickets, right? Also, people doing things like, I want to check to see if a ticket exists and check to see if this person's assigned to the ticket before I proceed with the job, right? That sort of things people have worked into their Rundeck workflows. So it only depends what you want to use your tickets for. Is it an active part of the workflow, or is it just the system of record where you want to, maintain the history of all this? That's really up to you. We can integrate at different levels.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, Damon, that actually with all of this in play, the ticket could well have originated from your ITSM tool, ServiceNow, Jira, BMC, all these different tools out there, and then triggered the process into PagerDuty, and then we can enrich the information with diagnostic information back to the responder on the help desk. Okay, so all of those become synchronized messages. So anything that is written to the PagerDuty timeline is going to be in the ITSM tools timeline too. So work where you are is a PagerDuty philosophy. So if you work out the service desk, then sure, you do all your actions from there. If you work out Slack, same as Teams, etc. So yeah, good question.
We had another question come in. It's a little bit longer. Question is, a big limiting factor in PagerDuty is that incident response, and by extension remediation, is tied to a service and its integrations. Is it possible with Rundeck to target incident response at business service level? I have composite synthetic monitors that check for errors in a group of applications, and if any of them fail, means a capability or a feature is failing rather than a microservice, I want to create an incident on a business service and run remediation to restart multiple services that just failed. Is this at all possible?
That's a pretty long question, as you say. And there's various questions that I'd like to ask about that one. Right now, today, you don't, the way PagerDuty is architected, you actually trigger the incidents at a service level, not the business service. So that's probably one that requires us to double click on and understand in a bit more detail.
I mean, I think from a Rundeck perspective, there's no limitation on what you can do from the Rundeck perspective. So the action you want, so how you spot the problem and how you correlate the problem to the business service, I think that's something that we can definitely follow up with, and Darren can help you do that in PagerDuty. But when it comes to take action, so Rundeck has its resource model, right? It wants to learn from the infrastructure and know where things are. You can define, it's an agentless system, so nodes are really any logical thing. And so sometimes people use a node can be, in addition to things like an OS, a node could be a load balancer or a container, right? Or a container infrastructure, or a node could be a business service. And so you can target, that node, that business service with your automation and define that as a cascading set of, say restarts. You want to restart a bunch of services. You can say restarting this is actually restarting all of these underlying services. And then you could basically say, I'm going to restart business service, right? So setting up to take action against that, there's no limitation on the Rundeck side. And I believe on the PagerDuty side, it's just sort of how you model things and how you tie your incidents together. And I'm sure if you get Darren on the phone, he can help you work through that. So I'd say it's not an impossibility. It just depends on how you want to do it. Once you figure out how you want to do it, I think we could probably help you pretty easily get it done.
Great, thank you. Another question came in from Catherine. Are the PagerDuty service directory and Rundeck nodes mapped together?
I kind of touched upon that one. I think right now they're distinct, but that is something that you'll see in the future being tied closer together, often to keep each other up to date, right? Rundeck knows a lot about your infrastructure. It's one of the kind of key secrets of Rundeck. It wants to pull from all the different sources. Say your cloud provider knows about where different hosts are, and a configuration tool knows what those things are configured as, and monitoring tools know what the status is, and kind of so on. Maybe a console-like tool configuration knows more about the configuration. And Rundeck likes to pull all that together and say, here's the nodes, here's the things you can target with your automation, here's the attributes I care about in those things. Rundeck can then inject those attributes into your scripts or tools or API calls when they execute, so everything kind of stays fresh and up to date. And obviously, PagerDuty has its service directory. People can define services and the teams and who's responsible. People use both of those together today, but I think in the future you'll see a lot more direct integration to keep those two things in sync. Darren, any thoughts about that?
No, I think that's a fair statement right now, Damon.
Wonderful. A question came in from Virgil. He asks, how do I invoke Rundeck without alerting on call, then alert them if needed?
That was actually the second part of our demo. Okay, so what we did do in the demo scenario here that we have, we actually assigned it to Rundeck. And what we did at that point is we left it to Rundeck to go and do whatever it needs to do to resolve the issue. And only if Rundeck failed did it engage PagerDuty. So if it had completed successfully, no one would have been woken up, okay? But we would have had a record of everything that happened. So Virgil, that one, maybe we skip through that pretty quickly, but that is part of the demo we had there. There's some other ways you can do these things, but that was one we showed you.
Yeah, hopefully if you want to do like a ticket and then working on that with Rundeck, and then you go, oh wait, this is a bigger problem, escalate, right? And maybe we do all our incidents through, and that might happen. People are doing some investigation, and then they go, oh gee, this is a bigger problem, or this is a snowballing problem that's going to get a lot worse. I need to turn this into an incident, assign a priority to it, and get the team looking at this. You could trigger that from Rundeck as well. So really, it's up to you what your workflow is, right? Would you say that, Darren?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. We've had a couple questions come in from George. First one is, how can I integrate existing scripts with Rundeck and take them to work in parallel?
I'm not sure mean by the work in parallel, but the first part, yes. I mean, Rundeck is designed to work with your existing tools and scripts. We feel like your teams already have the expertise, whether it's scripted, whether it's a tool, whether it's just manual commands that they type in. They know how to move the bits, they know how to set the configurations, they know how to do those things. Rundeck's about how do you define the procedures that span and invoke those things and understand what's happening there. So yeah, by definition, there is no like automation DSL in or new language to learn with Rundeck. You're literally plugging in the things that you already have and filling in the gaps from there. So, and yeah, you can work, you can define how the workflow works, but I'm not sure the parallel question, I'm getting this right, but you can define things, you can define the workflow strategy. Do you want to go in parallel across all nodes? Do you want to do all the steps on a node in parallel, do something in between? You can work all different ways. The automation can work in Rundeck.
Great, thank you. Another question from George. He asks, in a scenario for multiple alerts for the same incident at the same time, how does Rundeck behave?
How do you handle multiple alerts and then calling?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways. A good example would be this one here. We actually had 5 alerts. So the events are being fed in from the monitoring tool into PagerDuty directly, and the event intelligence is dealing with it. Okay. Therefore, we're only making one call to Rundeck in this configuration. Now, you could do it another way should you wish. If you wanted the script to run on multiple instances, multiple nodes, we can configure that in several different ways, including in Rundeck, the command can be issued, the job, and executed on multiple nodes simultaneously. So lots of different ways of configuring that one, Jorge.
Yeah, or the way I'd say it is Rundeck is PagerDuty is the brain, right? PagerDuty is going to see things, it's going to smell things, it's going to decide that something's got to happen. Rundeck in this scenario, it's the smart hands, right? It's the expert hands that know how to do things. But the decisions in this scenario and the processing of the incident of the signals for the incident are all going to be happening in PagerDuty. Rundeck is how PagerDuty, attaches hands to the brain to go do something.
Great. Great questions, Jorge. Thank you. Let's take a question from Tony. He asks, how does Rundeck integrate with systems such as Ansible and Puppet, etc.? Do they overlap in capability and function, or does Rundeck integrate with these systems?
Yeah, definitely integrate. I mean, I think Ansible is probably the number one integration that we see. So you look at those tools as I talked about, those are things that know how to move the bits, right? That's the automation that you already have, right? You know how to move this package, install this package, move files around, generate configurations, make API calls. That layer, whether it's Ansible and Puppet or it's shell scripts and PowerShell scripts, right? That you've already got that expertise. Rundeck's not about replacing that. Rundeck's about adding the layer on top of it. How do I invoke those things? What command line arguments or what options do I need, user input do I need to provide with that? How do I know where to target that stuff? When step one responds this information, what do I do with it, right? Is that good? Is it bad? Something's not good or not bad. How do I notify people? How do I set up access control? Who can access that? How do I really put those guardrails around that so I can hand that off to somebody? That's where Rundeck comes in. And to try to do that in different tools or in those, bending different tools or in your own favorite scripting language, that's a serious programming effort. But in Rundeck, it's basic configuration. And you can do that either in source form. So if you want to run it through your SDLC or various kind of code lifecycle processes, you can do that. Same way as if you want to do that in the Rundeck UI, you can define it there as well. But you can think of it as that layer of workflow on top of all those existing tools and scripts. And so you could leverage all of that and get all the value out of that and more.
Yeah, again, Damon, great points there. Those tools, as they push things out, we're going to capture those changes and bring them back. So if an incident does occur, you're going to get visibility. Was that Tony? Yeah, Tony, there's a couple of great integrations we've got going on there.
Great question. I had a question come through from Kieran. Asks, is PagerDuty an SOR for digital data, or is it consuming, for example, CMDB data from Snow?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kieran. So system of records, you can absolutely use your configuration if your CMDB is in service now. You can actually use the PagerDuty integration to provision services directly from that CMDB, should you wish. So yep, you can do it that way, or you could construct your business service structure in PagerDuty and then use that to consume the Snow data from there. So yes, a long answer to a question there.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of that service directory or business service directory in PagerDuty and the resource model in Rundeck. I think these are some of the more powerful and untapped pieces of these solutions and really are the source of kind of a lot of pretty amazing things you could do with the solutions because of that data and the awareness that it brings to whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that you can detect the nodes directly out of service now puts them in all the places we need to execute the intelligence stuff.
Yeah, and also we fully realize that that it's deceptively simple. There's a lot of things it powers. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either your Rundeck or PagerDuty representative to line up the folks who can help you. Just easily think through these problems and show you how to put it together in our tools.
Great. Another question came in from Jorge. He asks, Rundeck will give me some possibility to get some return code that I can use with my scripts.
There is ways to do different kinds of error codes, but largely it's looking for, is it, a succeed or a fail, kind of like but yeah, there is, again, this is one of the things you can reach out to your CSM team on either side and can help you do this.
We was doing some experimentation with this. We're actually using Rundeck to go and collect information from PagerDuty using the API, using the results of that from the JSON response to then go and execute other things within Rundeck. So, we've kind of taken some of the things we've found there and found some other ways of using them. Pretty useful stuff.
Okay. And Virgil answered the question there in the chat, said the log filters work as well too for capturing data out of which is kind of an unknown. It's a little hidden. I think we got to do a better job of surfacing it and explaining how to use it. But you're able to capture key values from a step, save it as an option, and then make that option available to the next step. And you can use in Rundeck Enterprise the advanced workflows to actually do conditionals in the workflow based on those options that were captured in the previous step. Again, one of these things that you can twist yourself around different ways doing it. So don't hesitate to reach out to your, your team for someone to help you get it done.
Looks like we have time for one more question. Jim asked, what are the options for configuring Rundeck via code?
YAML, or you basically define your jobs as source. You can put them in a Git repository, and there's a Git client inside Rundeck to keep those in sync or show you if you're out of sync. So yeah, it's pretty flexible, and the idea is a lot of people like to start in the UI and figure things out, and then they'll take those as templates, export those jobs kind of as templates, and then they'll have developers or platform engineers or whoever keep those up to date as part of their deliverables, and then promote those through their SDLC from dev test environment into production. Again, our teams can help you all figure that out, but it's designed to help everybody work the way they want to work. Like that, you can tell that's a pretty core design principle for Rundeck.